Hi, I'm Lisa Singer. I am the Deputy Editorial Director at Media Post, and this is Brand Insider BTS, where I get to pull back the curtain on some of the most influential women marketers today. And with me, I have Angela Zepeda. She is the CMO of Hyundai. Hey, Angela.
Good morning. Hi, Lisa. Good to see you.
Oh, it's so great to see you. We've done axe throwing together. We've
Yes.
we've been in Austin. We've done things, but this I'm so happy that we're able to just talk about things outside of marketing and strategy and just here because you are definitely a very impressive lady and I want to hear
Oh,
all about
you're
you.
very kind. Thank you so much. Well, happy to be here.
Yeah, well, I am so glad. And well, I just want to start right off, which you're breaking records because in 2019 Hyundai brought you in as CMO, and that made you the first woman in the C-suite at Hyundai. So
Yes.
that's pretty incredible. Congrats on that. That must have been so amazing for you to have that happen.
Yeah.
Talk about that in general, because I mean, obviously, the auto industry is male dominated for the most part. So for you to get into a position like that, what did that feel like to you?
Well, it was a big surprise. I'll start there. And I will say I think the industry is changing somewhat rapidly, even since 2019. And we've definitely seen that at Hyundai. I was the first woman in the C-suite. It was a big surprise. Just to give you some background, my whole career has been in the advertising side. I had started working on, OEM car company accounts early in my career. Later on evolved, became, a managing director, president, a CEO of agencies, did that for a really long time. And then I ended up coming to the agency for Hyundai called Notion.
Mhm.
And I was brought there originally to do the job of building new business beyond Hyundai, beyond the automotive side. They are the agency that was built for Hyundai, but they are an independent agency as well. And so they needed to grow. That's how I got there. And just through some things that happen, people leaving, promotions, changes. I ended up running the Hyundai account at Notion, but it wasn't my original job that I went there for at the end of 2016. But I was thrilled to do it, and thrilled to get back into automotive. And then about a year and a half into that, we ended up getting a new CEO at Hyundai, Jose Munoz,
Mhm.
who has really been known as a leader in the industry who really supports diversity and women. And there was an opportunity because our CMO client at the time had gone on to take an opportunity somewhere else for himself. And unbeknownst to me, he wanted me to come over to be CMO at Hyundai.
Wow.
And I was really surprised. It's not a normal thing for an agency person to translate to the client side. But I had gotten my MBA. I was very business oriented, and the unique nature between Hyundai and some of its companies, we call them the affiliates, as part of the overall Hyundai Motor Group ecosystem, is that I was part of that executive leadership team with Jose Munoz, even though in those early days I was at Notion. So he had gotten to know me,
Mhm.
and it was really great. The great news, though, since I became CMO, is that there's a lot of other senior women in the C-suite. So we fondly call it ABCD, which is Angela, BC, Claudia, and Dana. And BC Boyle is our chief product officer who's at Hyundai. She's fantastic. She's also African American, which is even a greater moment for that. Claudia Marquez is our COO of Genesis, and she's a Hispanic woman. And then Dana White is our chief communications officer, head of PR, and she's also African American. So we have a lot of diversity. We have a lot of women. We have a lot of other senior women in a lot of other positions. So it's exciting, and it's nice that I'm not the only one. I mean, it was fine for about a few months, but I was ready to get some other ladies around me, and soon enough that happened.
Yeah, and the thing is, and I love that what you're saying in terms of, as you said, like bringing more women into these leadership positions and bringing more women of diversity. But and talk about how that makes changes the whole makeup in terms of, you guys are making the decisions. You guys are bringing up the people that you want to hire in training them or just passing on what you want done. So, and that's from a woman's mentality, which I mean, as much as we want to say men and women, whatever, there's a different way about a different type of leadership with women. Talk
Yeah.
about that and how that is it also advancing what Hyundai is all about internally when it comes to things like that.
Well, we have a spirit of, one team. We say it all the time. And that is under Jose's direction. But I think it's also the makeup of the people who have that spirit. I can't speak to how things were in the past. It is a Korean culture, to some level, even today, even though, we have our US corporate headquarters in Southern California, we have a lot of Korean counterparts, and there's a Korean sensibility to our company, and we respect that, and we actually embrace it quite a bit. But I think adding women to the senior table has given ability to, I think, work a little better across the organization. I think for a long time, Hyundai was really a sales and engineering led company, really not even a marketing led company. There were silos. We had to break down those barriers. And I think just organizationally, even with the way Jose is in his role, he is just not CEO of the US. He's over what we call the region. So Canada, US, Mexico, and Brazil. And now he just got a global position. So he's over many more regions. We just call him Chief Everything Officer now. But that executive sponsorship to have more collaboration and having more people participate, men and women. I think women do help give this ability to say, look, I don't have to have all the answers. I need to collaborate with you to get to a final solution that's right for whatever program or project we're working on. And I think that's really my sensibility. Is I always walk into any situation saying, we're all gathered here with our areas of expertise. Let's pull our collective mindset together and agree. And while you may not get always what you want, I think what we end up getting is something that we can all live with. And I think the women have helped bridge that sensibility, because I think there was a lot more of a little bit of a more combative nature in the past. That this was mine, or no, you're not going to tell me how to do what I do in my job. I take a lot of input even on marketing. And that's a really hard one because, creative is a very subjective topic. And, you kind of, sometimes you want to go, thank you for that comment. I mean, I don't know what to do with that. But, respectfully, everyone sees things from their point of view, and their point of view is important. So I think that's just, the way that we work to bring people together. I see it in Dana, I see it in Claudia, I see it in BC. And I'm not saying I don't see it in the men, because I do. But I think the women have really infused this spirit of collaboration, and that we are one team. And if my personality and the way I managed helped get us there, then I think it's actually improved Hyundai for the better. I think we all feel like it's definitely a company on the move, and it's going in the right direction. And a lot of it has to be just the symbiotic nature of the executive team. And then I think that's filtrating down throughout the entire organization.
Yeah. And well, I want to jump back to what you said initially, where you were so happy, to get back into the automotive
Yeah.
side of things and automotive industry. Where does that come from, and how? Because it's still something that I think a lot of women who are maybe just starting out, just graduating, or maybe women thinking of other careers, they don't necessarily think automotive industry, because again, I think it still has the stereotype of being male oriented, and all of those, maybe negatives for women if in terms of pursuing that career. But you obviously were ready and wanted to go back to it. Why? What is that passion? And what would you tell someone just starting out, maybe why they should think of a career there?
Well, automotive in general is an incredible industry. I mean, it is so big and wide. There's so many components to it that it actually gives an opportunity for a lot of people to have some incredible careers. Whether it's at a corporate headquarters working for a manufacturer, like is where I sit, or someone who is even at the dealership level, everything in between, there's tons of opportunity. And that's what I love about the auto industry. I mean, it really does keep a lot of America moving with the amount of jobs that it actually produces. And there's no stopping what's happening in the automotive business. I mean, everyone has a car. We're all talking about electric vehicles next. What's the next technology? We think about it as just mobility. And I think the innovation that's happening in this industry is really infusing a lot of innovation in a lot of different areas too. And so I think it's one of the places where there's some of the most exciting work being done. And we have some incredibly brilliant people in a lot of companies that are just driving it forward. I think the hesitation women may have to work like directly for an OEM is, they may think that it's more engineering focused or more product focused, which maybe is not areas where so many people or females go into for their careers. They don't think of it first. But then you have people like BC, who has a double engineering degree. I mean, she went for it and she ended up doing incredibly well in automotive. I ended up wanting to work on an automotive account because someone in advertising, I mean, it's not always about the budget, but the budgets do help feel the fact that you get to do a lot of stuff. I mean, an automotive account is a massive account for an agency, and you just get this breadth of work that you get to do for one client. And it is really exciting. Everything from a potential Super Bowl spot down to how we're driving customers into our dealerships. And so for me, I felt like I learned a lot just from an operations standpoint, because I was even at the agency, but we were working on big automotive accounts, and I worked on many of them through the years. And it was a tremendously exciting for me. And then, now my job mostly day to day is operations. My job is marketing. I do work with our ad agency to do all of our creative, but I keep saying that's sort of my side hustle. I mean, I am part of the executive team. I am as focused on the numbers as anyone else because I have to drive all that demand. And it's a lot of pressure. And so understanding everything about what happens within our company is really what an executive does. And for me, I've learned a tremendous amount in almost the 3 years I've been in this role. So it doesn't stop giving back. And it's just a really good career. And also we've had a lot of people who've been longstanding employees at Hyundai. I think that's the same for other OEMs. So I think from a women's perspective, it's a great place to grow. And I think have sort of that confidence that you can be promoted up within an environment that over the years you could be supported. And I think it's just really an underlooked industry that I would really say for a lot of women, go for it. It needs more women. And I think the doors are wide open pretty much across the board to bring more women into the industry for sure.
Yeah. And I'm sure even more so now, as you said, in the last 3 years, you've seen just the changes.
Huge
And
change.
of course, women like yourself in the senior positions are going to, I mean, obviously you're going to go for the better, who is best for the job. But again, it's perspective, as you said, and maybe you'll see this different perspective from this woman trying for one position as opposed to a man or whoever it may be. You're
Right.
more open-minded to that than maybe a man would have been. I'm not saying all men, but in general, there's, as you said, different perspectives.
Yeah, and I even had my two directors are also females, and that's just a little bit of coincidence more than anything else. But I do really like it. In fact, I'll just share. It's kind of funny. So I have this ring that my husband gave me. Today is actually my anniversary, but he gave it to me for my anniversary a couple of years ago. And unbeknownst to me, both of the directors who work with me, they admired this ring, and all of a sudden I noticed them on Zoom since we've worked from home. I'm like, did you get a Bulgari ring? Yes, I copied you. And now actually both of them have, so we call it the superpower ring. So, all the women have this ring. It's just more of a coincidence. It is funny, but they're phenomenal. And I think the way that they work well together is also, nobody wants to have a combative work environment. We really work through obstacles together, and I always bring people together, and they have learned that as well. And so I think there's just a lot of harmony. It's not perfect, but I think there's a lot of harmony, and I think that we have a same sensibility on how we approach our work, and I think that helps a lot too. And some of it is because we're three women, but it's also we have pretty close backgrounds as well. But it's pretty fun. I mean, we do have a lot of fun day to day.
That's great. And congratulations. Thank you so much for doing this on your anniversary. Happy
Oh,
anniversary.
I'm working anyway, so we'll celebrate tonight.
That's awesome. Well,
707 is when I got married. They said it was the luckiest day of the century.
oh, that is so great. Any big plans for celebrating tonight?
No, we're both working late, but we'll do something.
Great.
We'll
Well,
do
I'm
something.
as I said, I'm glad to be part of your anniversary
Thank you,
today.
Lisa.
So, and I know that you were just in Cannes, which awesome.
Yes.
I mean, it's like, just the feeds and seeing what you were doing. And I saw that you were on the main stage, which is so great. Talk about, well, first of all, what did that feel like?
It was great. I love Cannes. I've gone to the Cannes Lion Festival many times, always of course, I was on the agency side, which of course it is a great creative forum. But it's really turned into a bigger deal than that. I mean, it's every major tech and media platform and company is represented there that week. It is in the south of France, which the location couldn't be any better. But I just think the globality of it and the level of senior executive leadership that actually attends Cannes gives you an opportunity to do a lot within the span of a week. In this forum, it's actually great. So we took our agency with us, a few of us from Hyundai went, and then of course from our media company and our agency, which is Canvas. And we all had different goals about what we wanted to accomplish at Cannes. And you know, a lot of it is senior meetings with a lot of our partners, which is great. But we did want to try to get an opportunity to get on the main stage because we did do a lot last year. We had 5 product launches, even with COVID and inventory shortages. Hyundai has not been shy on continuing to invest and innovate and put new product into the market, which those bets have worked really well for us. And one of the most exciting things we did last year was we partnered with Disney to launch our all new Tucson, which is the most important product in our lineup for many reasons. It's our volume leader, it's our profit leader. And honestly, it didn't get a lot of love for a lot of years. You know, we had competitors like Rogue and RAV4 that were sort of eating our lunch. They were really great products and we weren't quite up to par. I'm very happy to say that Tucson is a winning product, and we really wanted to go big with how to put it in the market. And while we historically do Super Bowl spots, we needed something bigger than just one day, although it's just not one day with Super Bowl, I get that, but you know what I mean. We had to go for the whole year, and we needed a media partner who could also help us creatively. And so that unique partnership with Disney was really fantastic. They actually took this idea of this campaign we had to launch Tucson, which was question everything. The idea of how do you take a great car and make it even better? Well, you question everything on it. And they loved that. And so they took that with their creative people at Disney and actually infused that within their own IP. I mean, we were doing custom creative for ESPN, for The Bachelorette. We were on Blackish. We had a whole episode that was just about the car that was fully integrated, and it was fantastic. And then of course, Marvel came to the table. And the best one I love telling the story of, it was the launch of the new Loki spot. It was right at the cusp of when we were launching Tucson, and we had Loki driving a Hyundai, and we had social media blowing up saying, I didn't even know that Loki drove, let alone he would drive a Hyundai Tucson. So it was really funny. And it was really great. And so we wanted to talk about that at Cannes. And so we had to submit to get on the main stage. You know, you have to put a proposal in, and then we waited to see if they had accepted it. And so I was on the main stage with Rita Farrow, who's the head of ad sales at Disney, and she's amazing, along with Elizabeth Olsen, the actress, who was in a couple of our spots. She was also in WandaVision. She's right now in Doctor Strange. And it was just an amazing moment to be on stage in that big forum and to talk about something that we were all so proud of. So it was one of the many good highlights, but probably the biggest one of the week for sure.
It is. I mean, I think that's so amazing, and I would have been so nervous. But I mean, I think it's wonderful, and I love. I mean, as you said, the Tucson wasn't getting as much love, and you went bigger and better, and you know the product is there, but that shows just how much marketing plays a role in the business side of things. I mean, you need the product, you need it to, to
100%.
100, because otherwise, yeah, you can get everyone to try it, and if it's not good, they're not going to, no more. The word of mouth's going to ruin it. But that just shows how much marketing plays a role in that business side of things. People don't always realize that or acknowledge that.
Yeah, it is true. I mean, like we tease a little bit. I mean, it's called a fixed marketing expense. That's the budget we have for marketing. And Jose teasingly will say, well, Angela's the only one around here who has a budget to spend. I'm like, that's right. Someone's got to do it. What we'd rather have it be called, though, is a fixed marketing investment. And I think the company is starting to think of that money we're spending on marketing, which is under huge scrutiny. I mean, I basically go to the big office every month to defend, so to speak, what we're spending and how well it worked for us. But it is true. I mean, it is a big expense, and it does need to do a lot of heavy lifting for us. And what we saw with Tucson was one of the biggest indicators we look at is search, because what's the first thing a person does when they're interested in a car is they Google. Yeah. And so for us, it used to be leads. Leads have an important role, but really it's a consumer's first touch to being interested in a car. And not only did we just see an uptick, I mean, we just went here. I mean, it took us to a whole new level. So we're one of the fastest growing OEMs with search growth, which is fantastic. And the good news is, since last spring, we have held those demand levels. Even still with all the inventory. I mean, what it's telling us for the first time for Hyundai, as we've been in the US for 36 years, is demand is high, inventory is low, and we have this window of opportunity where we have a whole new generation of customers who are interested in our products because we finally got them right. And they're willing to wait for their Hyundai. They just won't go turn to another brand to get it into another car faster if they could. They're actually saying, you know what, I get it. There's inventory shortages. There's across the board. I'm going to wait for my Hyundai. And for us, we've never experienced that before. And we are getting credit in marketing to say we're driving that demand and getting these people to look at Hyundai in a fresh new way. And there's more exciting work to be coming to just keep that momentum going. So we're happy, but we're humble. We still have a lot of ways to go. I mean, I will share the next thing for us for Hyundai is it's not an emotionally connected brand with people. It's known as a really good, solid choice. You know, we always call it the driveway test, like with Toyota. If you brought a Toyota home, you know, you're not embarrassed about buying a Toyota. You're not going to get fired for buying a Toyota. I mean, people get why you would buy a Toyota. But it has really great QDR on it. And I think people are feeling a little less emotional about those kinds of purchases. We're kind of in that bucket right now too. What we want people is understand who Hyundai is, what we stand for as a brand, and how we really connect and make people's lives better with the products that and services we offer. And so that's sort of the next iteration of what we're working on. And I think that'll be really exciting work. We want people to understand this incredible company in ways that maybe we weren't able to explain in the past. So that's the challenge that's on the table now. And we're busy working on that in the background with our agency.
That sounds great. And I mean, as you sort of have to get to each level, and that's just, you know, you get to
Exactly.
and then you
We
keep
say
moving
step by
forward.
step around our place a lot, step by step.
Always moving forward. Well, I need to jump back at the questions everything
Okay.
campaign, because I love that campaign. I think like Jason Bateman asking when
Yes.
he's driving, like, you know, why is it call it a funny bone? You know, because if you ever hit it, you know, something like that. And or why do they say duck when or something, whatever, I forget, what is it?
Why do they say duck when you mean something else? Yeah. Or why do they call it
Oh, heads
quicksand if
up
it moves so
when you're supposed
slowly?
to
Why?
duck.
Yeah. Why do they say duck when they mean heads up?
Yeah.
Why do they call it quicksand if it moves so slowly?
Yes.
You know, it was just all these rhetorical questions.
Right. So I am not making it rhetorical. One of the questions was by Mindy Kaling, and
Yes.
she asked, if you enjoy wasting time, is it really wasting time, or is it wasted? So I'm asking you, is it? And if you do waste time, how does Angela waste time?
You know, it's a really good question. You know, I think if you enjoy wasting time, that's not wasting time. I think, you know, everybody needs a time to reset and do the things that they do that maybe don't always add up to doing something that's going to have some outcome or goal. I mean, we're all in big jobs. There's enough Monday through Friday work that gets done. I think when you finally take time to just turn your mind off is really great. It took me a long time to sort of, I think, really relax and try to turn work off, which I am really terrible at. I mean, I admit I'm actually a terrible sleeper. So I see all the emails. We're a global company. They come through at night. I'm touching my phones over here to the left. I have 2 computers, 2 phones. Like, you could always be connected. One thing for me, and I remember this when I went back to school to get my MBA, which has been, I don't know, 15, 16 years ago. I remember, and I went back as an executive because I was running an agency at the time. And it's a scary thing to go back to school, right? When you already have a full-time job. And, you know, everyone's like, God, you know, can I do this? It's a lot. I didn't realize it was this much of a commitment. And, you know, the dean of the school said, look, what you're all going to realize is that you fritter away a lot of time that you're going to now condense and use to get through this MBA program. And then when you're done with the program, you can go back to that time and fritter it away. And you know what? It really made me cognizant of the time that I do waste doing absolutely nothing that has no purpose or end goal. But it's nice. I think that's, you know, what I do. Both my husband and I have really big families. And so because we work so much and travel so much, we spend a lot of time with family. We love to travel. And we just love being in our home. I guess I would say I'm more of a homebody, and it's because I do travel. When, you know, COVID for me was actually kind of some nice things because I do like being at home. I love going to work too, but to have that opportunity to spend more time at home was great. But But I do need to pick up some of my old hobbies that I let go because I got so busy. One of them was I used to paint a lot when I was much younger. I mean, that's one of the ones on my list. I tried to learn Spanish recently, and then I gave up because I couldn't keep up with my classes, things like that. But to me, those are all really important things, I think, to make you more of a whole person. And I don't think it's wasting time at all. I think it's just, you don't always have to be productive 100% of the part of the day. I think just enjoying life is really an important part of being just a human being. So I embrace it.
Yeah. Well, so how about a guilty pleasure? Do you have, what is it? Is there something that you do when you want to kind of just, maybe it's not, you can't do it all the time, or maybe you feel a little guilty when you're doing it, but you really enjoy it?
Oh God, there's a lot of that. I mean, even just taking like a Sunday afternoon to just like go down by the beach and sit there and just have like a glass of wine and just look at the water. I was born and raised in Southern California. I never tire of looking at that.
Mhm.
And I just feel like, yeah, that's pretty much non-productive time, but I love it.
No, I think what you're saying as far as resetting, because you do have such a busy life. You're going for work, traveling all the time. So to have to really do that well, I think you need to take that time every once in a while, at least, to kind of reset yourself and be able to make yourself be able to do the best you can in your job.
So I took the Myers-Briggs test, and I think most people think of me as an extrovert. I have a big family. I have a lot of friends. I have kind of this very public job. But the truth is, it comes back I've taken it 3 or 4 times now. Every single time it comes back that I'm an introvert. And I think it's because it's the one key measure on there. It says, do you get your energy from people or not? And so for me, it is really true. I can put myself out there and be front and center and be fully in the moment and love being around people. But there are these moments where I need to retreat and I need to reset. I think that's why I like doing those moments where I can kind of just be by myself a little bit. I do need to get reset. I do. And my husband's even funny because he's seen me a little more in action, I guess you'd say, since we've been working from home. I've been back at the office, but days like today, he could be in the background. He could hear me like talk like I am maybe now with you. And I'll get off and he's like, boy, you don't talk like that when you're just with me here at home. And I'm like, I know, because you're my reset person. Like I don't have to be that person all the time. And I think it's funny that we all play multiple roles for the parts of our job or our life that we have to do. But yeah, I think the resetting for me is really critical. And it helps me, I think, just be a better person back to the team if I've just had a little bit of time. But I definitely love doing all the things that are very extroverted as well. So I'm always in between these two worlds, it feels like.
Yeah. Well, it's actually, they even did a study or something, because I'm definitely that kind of person as well. Like when I'm out, I'm very talkative, engage with everyone, love it. But when I want to be on my own, whatever, I need that time. I need to just be by myself, or just, as you said, sort of reset and kind of, and I don't want the interruption, I guess. Like some people, you can knock on their door whenever and they'll be happy. And I'm not that. I need to have my own downtime. So, and there is like they came up with introvert, extrovert, obviously, but I guess there's something that they call, I don't know, maybe a combo of it. So but
Yeah.
they were talking about it. It was a study just a few years back that I remember seeing, I think on the Today Show or something. But so
Yeah. I guess the other big one is if you are okay with being by yourself or being alone, I'm actually okay with that. I'm okay with that, but not for long. I mean, at some point I'm like, okay, that's enough. Let's go find all these people that I know, this big gang that I know between family and friends, but I'm actually okay to be by myself. It doesn't bother me at all. And I think that's an indication of being someone who's a little more introverted, on the one side of your personality, but
yeah.
it's good. And actually, I'm a big reader. I should say that I do read prolifically. I don't find that to be a guilty pleasure. I feel like that's kind of a must. I mean, I really love to constantly find out new things and knowledge. And I read a lot of nonfiction, but a lot of fiction. And it's actually one of the things I love to do more than anything. So I think that's a big part of, and that takes a downtime, alone time.
Right. And that, but is there a go-to, or what are you reading now that, or what's one of the most, something that you've read that really impressed you the most or enjoyed the most?
Some of the things, somebody said this the other day. I saw it on social media and I thought that is so true. like if I could go back to some of the books I read for the very first time and remember how I felt, was like, God, that was such a good story. Like I remember the first time I read A Tale of Two Cities, just the way it was written and the story behind it, like way back when I was in school as a kid. I've read so many books, it's hard to say. I read a lot of business books and a lot of books on management. So that was kind of and people send me a lot of books. That's another thing too. It's really interesting, I think, because people know that I like it. But I also love coffee table books, and I have a lot in my home. And I love fashion. I love art. I love architecture. So, I mean, I have a lot of those too, but I'm constantly, what did I just finish? I just finished the book by Gary Vaynerchuk on his principles on management. It was really good. So, constantly reading.
It's so funny when you say that. I never had heard of him until literally, I'm saying, in this past week, four people, whether it be talking to someone or reading their, I do my snooping on the
Yeah.
LinkedIn, and his name keeps coming up. But it's funny. It hadn't, you think in my industry, whatever, it would come up before, but literally it's like the fifth time in just a matter of, 7 days that
Yeah.
his name has come up. So I need to, I actually now follow him because I'm like, I
He's
have to.
he's a brilliant person. He asks very provocative questions. Where his mind and his business is focused is really interesting. And while we have a Notion as our main agency of record, we have worked with Gary and some of his other companies, helping us with certain parts of our business. Influencers, we'd like to talk to him about NFT and metaverse, which is where he's really heavy in. And he knows how to work with AORs, agencies of record. So I think he has a smart business model. He's also smart. I got invited to a CMO roundtable. It was done at the beginnings of COVID, and they were doing their outreach. And I'm thinking, how smart are these guys? Bringing a bunch of CMOs together with Gary Vaynerchuk. So I said, yes, I'd love to attend. There was a lot of really smart people who were going to be part of it. And I was like, this is pretty exciting. And then he started in the wine business. If you read that, you'll find out. And so, before a couple of days before the panel, here comes this bottle of wine from Gary. I don't know if he did the note himself, but I was like, this is pretty cool. I think this is really great. And it was a really good roundtable, even virtually. And then they've just kept us engaged. And then we have done some projects with them, which has been really terrific. Mm-hmm. And then I just had the opportunity, I met him in person for the first time in Cannes, because this is the first time we were able to do that post-COVID. And he was as genuine and as he seemed, virtually, as he was in real life. And I think he just has a real passion now for the spirit of, how to build a life of purpose and positivity. It's sort of evolved just from, basic doing well with business and success. It's really about how to live a full life. And I think it's been interesting to see him on his journey and how he perceives things. So yeah, he's a good one to follow. And he wrote just another book, just wrote another book,
Yeah.
I don't even know how he did that. Just popped another one out.
You've written about 10 too.
Exactly. So no, I've not written anything yet. I have lots of good ideas, but he's pretty great. And, people like that really inspire me. Again, there's 1,000 million people much smarter than I could be, even on my best day. And I think that's a really good thing to know about yourself, that a lot of other people inspire me and give me a lot of input to help me do my job better every day. I certainly don't have all the answers, but I'm always open to other people's ideas and then how do we interpret them for what we use for what we need to do. And I think that's the fun part of just, this industry. And then I'm in this weird cross zone because I have this creative background at an agency side. And so I'm always tipping between these two worlds. And so it's a lot of fun. There's just an amazing amount of amazing people who you could integrate with. And it's just been a really great experience.
Well, I even and you just saying that, it reminds me that, you said you love fashion, but you have a fashion degree. So was that initially your intent?
No, I wanted to go get a fashion degree. What I ended up getting was a communications degree in advertising. And I'm from Southern California. I was the first one. I'm from a big family, and I wanted to go to New York and go get a fashion degree, like at the Fashion Institute or something like that. And my dad was a dentist. He was a serious businessman, and he did real estate, and they sort of placated me for a lot of years. Yeah, sure, Angela, we'll let you. Yeah, sure, we'll let you do that. And then when it really came down to it, they were scared to death to let me go to New York, which, in the early mid 80s, when did I go to college? Later 80s, New York was still a little rough. I mean, it was still coming out of that time that the city had gone through that rough patch. And I didn't know. I was just a kid from Southern California. And so my parents were like, heck no, you're not going back there. So I ended up going to school locally. I could not get a business degree at that moment in time. I was really crushed. I mean, I really wanted to go do something in fashion. And that's how I ended up getting my degree in communications and advertising. I got a fine art minor because I was doing art at the time too, which then I didn't even go into the creative side though in advertising, because I realized when I even got to college, I was like, oh, I'm not even that good in creative. I mean, I better go focus on something else. When you really get with people who are really good at their craft, you sort of get to level set where you sort of stack up against that competition. But in the end, it ended up being an incredible journey for me, because I ended up going into advertising and I loved every single minute of it, and every agency I worked for and every client I've worked for. And it treated me very, very, very well. And I cannot complain about the journey I have taken at all. So I just like to buy clothes when, like everyone else. And I was all excited to see who was in the Balenciaga show yesterday, Kim Kardashian and Nicole Kidman. Oh yeah, I still love all that stuff.
Yeah, no, and I think that's great. But I also think that's so valuable to anyone starting out. You may think this is the way you want to go, but as you start to do those things, whether it be, seeing others who are doing it in a different level than you, or maybe, hey, I'm not really enjoying this, but I have a natural knack at doing this, and just to be open to those changes, which obviously you were.
Yeah, I was. And again, I have a creative sensibility, I guess is what I would say, but I was an account person on the agency side. And of course, now I'm in this role as a CMO, but I think my creative bent, or at least my love of it, I hope makes me a better client for the agency. I don't know, you'd have to go ask them. But I do love the creative process, and it is still one of the most fun parts of the job. And honing that craft is really a fun thing, which is why I was the biggest proponent, I think, out of anyone to go to the Cannes Lion this year, because I wanted to be immersed in that creative environment where you can be inspired about what's possible. And I think that's really a lot of what creativity offers. And now we know creativity can actually really propel business results. And it's been shown to be a fact. It isn't just a nice thing to have. And so I think that's really nice to bring that to Hyundai at this point. So it's fun. It's been a good journey.
Well, I want to end it with one last question, and I'm going to sort of go back to your what if ask everything campaign, but you also, as you mentioned with Marvel Studios, the question was what if. So my question to you is, what if you weren't a marketer? What would you be?
Well, if I wasn't a marketer, I would probably want to really be in fashion design. I mean, I wish I had more of a bent of like my dad, who was a dentist. None of us became a dentist. And that's actually a really nice career. Nobody said anything there. I wish someone would have told me as a kid to go into finance. That would have been nice. Everybody I know who's in finance has done so well financially. But those aren't for me, honestly. Would I have been happy to be doing either one of those jobs? I don't think so. If I wasn't a marketer, I would be doing something, I think, creatively, whether that be food. I really wanted at one point to do like art museum curation. I still think that's fascinating. But I always go back to fashion. I mean, if somebody offered me a job tomorrow to work in whatever capacity at a fashion house, I'd probably go say yes. I mean, that's how cool I am. But I love that you can make something out of fabric, and it transforms the way a person feels. I think that's pretty cool. And it has a lot of mystique for me still, because I've never worked in it. I'd probably get into it and be like, ugh, what a grind is this industry. Give me the auto industry.
Where's my Tucson?
Where's my Tucson? But that's, I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. I mean, that's where I'm saying I didn't go exactly where I thought I was going to go when I was a kid, but I didn't venture too far off the path. And it's given me a good dose of, I think, that creative outlet that I needed. But I do love the business side and the operation side just as much. And that's where I'm actually learning the most day to day. And that was one of the things when Jose brought me over, he asked me if I was nervous about, or, does anything concern you about taking the job? Do you want the job? Yes, I want the job. And does anything make you nervous about it? And there was two things. And one was, I didn't know everything there was to know about an OEM, which is true. I only had the perspective from the agency side, and I knew it was deeper and wider than I could ever imagine in that moment. And then the other one is that a CMO at an OEM is a pretty public job. Like, you're either going to succeed or fail relatively publicly. And that made me a little nervous, because the work I was doing on the agency side, I didn't always get my name attached to it. We always put our client's name to it. And that was a thing that I was, a little trepidation about. And Jose said, don't worry, my job is to make sure that you're successful. And in that moment, I was just like, okay, I'm all in. So I think I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Well, I think so too. So Angela, thank you so much.
Lisa, thank you. How fun to talk to you about this. What a nice reset and for the day. It's been a lot of fun.
Definitely. And again, happy anniversary. Have fun.
Thank you very much.
You guys will enjoy and just relax. Have your wine and go sit out by the water.
I'm going to do that exact thing. I can't wait.
Great. Well, thank you. And thank you for watching. And as I always say, if you have a woman marketer that you'd love for me to find a little bit more about, sort of pull back the curtain, just let me know and I will do my best. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, Lisa.